on my other video that I made regards to whether should you take your kids to private or good schooling nowadays, because we have the huge influence with the mobile phones, smartphones. And what I've been speaking to my peers is that when they have the kids when they're 17 or mid-teenager or before teenager, is the fact that they wouldn't choose a school that is heavily using vape. But how can you control that if they're vaping or not, right? At the end of the day, I'm not here to say what's good or what's bad, but today's trend, kids are on vape, kids are on TikTok, a lot heavier than social media than our previous generation. Then OF, and you know where I'm going to head to, but I'm not going to discuss more about that. But the more I think about it, the whole thing is the fact that this is I've spoke to one of the as I mentioned in the previous video, I've spoke about like raising a kid in today's world. It is very difficult because of the fact that you have the influence of the social media and the smartphones, and as well it's hard to discipline them because they're a lot more rebellion against the family, the goals, the rules and everything like that. They're a lot more rebellion, and it's hard to, even if you give them a great environment, a learning environment, even though you succeed during their adolescent or X, Y, and Z, but the moment, I think it's 14 or 15, the moment they hit around that age, that's a different story. So for me to look at it, and it's very, very hard to raise your kids to be great, and now you have all these what they're learning in school. It's not common sense anymore, and it's muddled up their thought process, their thinking process, or think for themselves, or building up instead of shaming people with saying that's racist or X, Y, and Z. It has gone to the stage where I'm as a newly parent to think of it and say to myself, is it worth it to take your kids to do a better learning, or should I invest it? Because in today's world, the cost of living is too high. And mother and fathers tend to work non-stop, right? Just to stay afloat on the family. And obviously, what's being controlled, what's being said in school and their peers, you cannot control. But the more time they are going to it, it's going to be there. Even though you raise your kids to be good at tutoring or good at studying, their X, Y, and Z, once they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you can't control it. Or once they have what's that word? Once they learn about the current curriculum style, it is going bombarded on them, and it's not making them focus or uni-like, because the Western kids are usually not the strongest. The kids in university. If you look at university nowadays, there's a lot more international student, and they're the ones passing, where Westerner kids are giving up, even though they're high achiever, but they tend to give up. They have the notion of giving up, so X, Y, and Z. So that's for me, just to think about it, and I don't know what to say, because it's just the fact that it is a very different speed at the moment, and that's when I said, do I focus on taking my kids to go to private school, because I know the fact that that's going to be controlled, and it's something that a lot of families had to deep look into it. And I spoke to one of my co-worker about it, and he's like, because he's from a Somalian background, he was like saying, if my kids are behaving that way, I'm going to ship my kids back to my country and live in the remote area that there's no internet. There's actually a program for it. And that just sparked me back when I was living in China in boarding school, and that sparked me back to look back at it. Overseas is the way to go, but then again, overseas there's internet, so you can't avoid all that stuff. So that's the video.